Lecture 2. In the last lesson we saw that the attitude of mind is a necessary factor in our lives if we want any kind of health or happiness. This is true because we must be before we can do, and what we are depends upon what we think. We must take into consideration every thought that passes through our minds. We must go back to the beginning of our day and find what we said and what we did, what we thought about this person or that person, even what we thought about ourselves. Very often we think mostly about ourselves when we have any trouble. It is paramount in our minds. I want to make you realize that you must not concentrate upon your negative conditions, but allow the divine power to manifest through you by concentrating upon it. Divine metaphysics is the highest form of healing, and it is essential that you should understand it thoroughly. We cannot express any powers we do not possess. The only way to possess any ability or power is to become conscious of it, and we can never be conscious of power unless we learn that all power comes from within. It is useless trying to believe that power comes from without. Every thought, every idea must become part of ourselves before it can be expressed. Any influence that comes from outside, any mental picture that we have, no matter what it may be, action and reaction, must become part of ourselves before it can be of any value to us. The world within is a mental world and is governed by consciousness and by thought. When we discern this world, we will find the solution to every problem, the cause for every effect. This world within is subject to our control. It was this world that the Master saw so clearly when he said the kingdom of heaven, of power, is within you. Very few of us continually think as he did. We rush here and there to find the solution to our problems when all the time the solution is within. When we recognize this fact, we become powerful. We can adjust ourselves and our circumstances, and we can help other people to do the same. As to our world without, we must learn, and learn quickly, that it is but a reflection of our world within. In this world within also may be found the wisdom of the kingdom of heaven, infinite power and infinite supply of all that is necessary. This inner world of God is waiting for unfoldment. We must begin to recognize the wonderful truth, that we are the expression of the infinite mind, and that it is through us that the infinite expresses himself. We are the channels for his expression. If we cooperate, we will find success, happiness, abundance, health, and everything that man needs. But if we do not cooperate with that infinite mind in its expression, then we create within ourselves, in our inner world, the negative states that appear on the surface. If we will cooperate, the divine mind, being perfect in itself, will express itself through us. So we find that this inner world of God, the greater world, is waiting for unfoldment and expression through each and every one of us, for we are the only means whereby it can express itself. If we recognize our potentialities in the world within, they will surely take form in the outer. What we see on the outer is nothing but effects. Causes are hidden. Immediately we become aware of this tremendous fact, we know the cause of effects and can rectify them if necessary. The infinite mind is eagerly waiting for cooperation. The prophet exclaims in effect, "The Lord says, try me and see, and I will fill you with every good thing brimful and running over. Try me and see." Divine metaphysics enables us to obtain recognition of the divine principle within us. The ordinary individual finds the law difficult to understand because his mind is caught up with things external to himself, and he is so confused by the effects and conditions surrounding him that he has lost the power of uniting with the real within. In fact, his own inner world represents his own outer world full of confusion which externalizes itself in his life and circumstances. No matter what we see or feel, we should take an optimistic view. It is necessary to hold an attitude of mind that will react constructively to every event in life. Every experience should be a stepping stone to greater things. If we stagger under our burden, we will never gain the glory of the truth of our being. When we find wisdom within, we shall have that understanding to discern the marvelous possibilities that are latent in this world within, and every condition in life can be made the springboard for greater things. This alone can bring us to the understanding that all conditions in life are strengthening and not weakening. It is when we give way to our burden that our trouble begins. Do you not see that immediately this thought world of ours becomes negative, it begins to express itself outwardly in the same form? It is he who gives in to his conditions whose burden becomes greater. The Master said, "Come up to where I am and your yoke will be light." The majority of us are atlases carrying the world on our shoulders. If we can only recognize the truth that we have the power to overcome every condition, if we believe we can. If you yourself could catch a glimpse of this mighty power and make it your own, the effects in your life would be marvelous, would be transcendent. Within ourselves is a world of intelligence where courage, life, faith, and enthusiasm can make things real in our outer world of effect. It is so essential that we become aware of our true divine nature, and gaze upon it and bring it forth into our everyday existence, so that we can use this divine creative power so that all may benefit. The most potent statement that man can hold on to is, "The Father hath life in himself and he grants the Son to have life in himself." The same life in the Father is the same life in the Son. The least you do unto one of these, so you have done unto me. If you can give of this spiritual bread to anyone that is hungry, it will satisfy them. It was this that the Master meant when he said to the woman at the well, "Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again, but whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst, but the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life." And it is this food that man needs today. He needs it badly. But he is his own worst enemy, because he will not receive it. Because he still goes on creating more causes by reacting to the effects he himself creates in his own world. Isaiah says, "Why will you earn fresh strokes, for holding on in your revolt?" We must not only perceive the mind of the great prophets who understood the law, but we must also know the way to go ourselves. We create according to our own thought and expression. The Master himself said, "I do the will of the Father. The Father's will is done in me." This is the perfect way that has no reaction. The infinite mind is the only mind out of which everything can come. The universal mind is a substance in which consciousness and intelligence are partners, consciousness being the ruling factor, the directing power, the intelligence expressing that direction. Out of the universal mind everything comes, the bread we eat, the clothes we wear, everything that we use in our everyday life. This substance is created into form, and the only way it can be created into form is through conscious activity, conscious action, thoughts or ideas expressed through the mind. It has been proved that matter is not solid, as it was thought to be. It is porous and pliable. We find that matter is a combination of atoms, and these atoms have within themselves a power so great that it staggers the imagination of mankind. Energy encased in the smallest space has the greatest intensity. Matter consists of masses of atoms and electrons, and when it reaches the atomic state it becomes invisible to the physical eye. All forms can be dissolved into the one substance out of which they came. The form disappears, but the substance remains the same. It is still there as a basis for other forms to be created. Therefore the creative power in everything is within ourselves, and this consciousness is the power that brings forth form out of the substance, out of the divine mind, that we are living in and that lives in us, because we move and live and have our being in that mind, the mind of God, and God lives in us. The majority of people are always looking for evil, for bad effects. Whatever is in your mind is sure to outpicture whether you like it or not. If you are looking for evil while desiring the good will evade you. The Master said, "Resist not evil." Forget it, look for the good. Good cannot be seen through evil eyes, for evil is predominant in the mind. Most people who are looking for evil and others are producing it within themselves. They are not desiring to be good, they are only trying to see those faults in other people that are deeply rooted in themselves, and the result satisfies them. The senses reveal the vibrations of light, sound, taste, smell, hearing, feeling. When we are aware of the truth, the nervous system sends constructive impulses which react upon our body in pleasant and harmonious sensations, with the result that we build into our body's health and vitality. If, on the other hand, we are unaware of the truth, we are liable to react negatively. And through this same objective mind we create sickness, lack, limitation and all the destructive conditions. Thus we are related to destructive forces through the objective mind by our worry, reactions and thought. It is a wonderful thing for us that the infinite divine mind has given us free will to choose. The choice is thus left to us, and we learn through the law of cause and effect. The subconscious mind is the organism through which we contact the inner world, and the solar plexus is the organ of this mind. The sympathetic system controls all our subjective functions: circulation, breathing and absorption of food and reflex action. And harmony or inharmony is caused according to our thinking. It is also through the subconscious that we are connected with the universal mind, through which we are brought into relation with the infinite constructive forces. The universal mind is an extraordinary and wonderful instrument. It is man's instrument as well as God's instrument. To understand this universal mind, I will relate to you the pictures that come to me as to how this great mind works. The universal mind is impersonal in nature. In the first place, it is through the universal mind that God creates all his universes, including man. And as he creates man in his universal mind, this creative power with which God creates is individualized in man, and by this power man thinks. So we understand the meaning of "as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." This great universal mind holds all the laws and the ways and means of expressing things. It is intelligence in itself, and knows how to go about things. You do not have to tell it how to digest your food, it does it for you. The child, when it is born, knows exactly where to go for its milk. This universal mind is a vehicle for expression, a vehicle through which man and God harmonize as one, think and act as one. Through the creative power of God is created the universe. Man, beast, tree or plant. They are all creations in the universal mind, being different phases of activity, expressed in the universal mind and producing their kind according to the idea that it is held in the consciousness of God. The consciousness of God is spread throughout the whole of the universal mind and is behind every creation and every movement, seen and unseen, above and below. In the universal mind the law operates because the infinite consciousness has decreed that the law shall be adamant. The law comes into operation and man cannot interfere with it. Man may violate the law, but eventually he finds that he must abide by it if he would be whole. This law operates so that the whole universe expresses harmony. The most extraordinary thing is that this universal mind will create for the individual just as he thinks. It will create a negative condition as well as a positive condition in your life. The universal mind responds to man and gives him what he thinks, yet harmony still remains ready to function when negative conditions disappear through our change of thought. There are certain laws that man cannot interfere with, and one of these is the law of harmony. Harmony is entirely and completely a principle permeating the whole of the mind, and when man begins to see this truth he discards his negative thinking and finds harmony remains in his life because it is permanent. Man creates the temporary and transitory condition, those secondary causes which come into effect in his life. But immediately he becomes aware of the fact that the law of harmony exists, that it is not the product of man's mind but the establishment of God's creation and therefore permanent. God outpictures that harmony in man's environment, his affairs, his home, his entire life, when he cooperates with God. The subconscious mind is the organism through which we contact the inner world. The solar plexus is the organ of this mind. The sympathetic nervous system controls all our subjective functions: circulation of blood, breathing and absorption of food, and reflex action which causes conditions according to our thinking. It is through the subconscious that we are connected with the universal mind, through which we are brought into relation with the infinite constructive forces. Various negative mental states, emotions and passions have their effects upon mind and body, producing their own peculiar form of disease which, if continued, may become chronic. To counteract these we must encourage the emotions and thoughts that have the directly opposite effect. Kindness, love, goodwill, faith, hope and cheerfulness create a harmonious chemicalization of the body, exciting the healthy flow of all the secretion, and open the channels so that the life forces surge through the organism. A method that I have advocated with unbounded success to many people with incurable troubles is to lie in the open air and breathe deeply, repeating the words "divine life fills me," saying it so often that it becomes an actual fact to them. It is a most wonderful fact, that what we say with conviction is outpictured in action. The recognition in the mind of the true meaning of divine life makes that suggestion paramount, because as the mind thinks so the body accepts. Your thoughts are in the inner world, the effects are on the outer. The reason is that the cecal body is the mechanism especially adapted for the transmission of the inner or mental action into modes of external activity. The whole body is traversed by a network of nerves that serve as channels of communication between the indwelling spiritual ego and the function of the external organism. There you see plainly a wonderful scheme, and only God could create such an organism. This is the temple of the living God, that is built without hands. Now realize the truth about yourselves. Thought is the spirit's one mode of action. All forms are the result of thought. Let your imagination be clear and clean. Let it be complete. Dwell in the deeper meaning of this, so that which you create shall be of a constructive nature, complete. From the beginning, the great law of God is that everything is now complete. We are partaking day after day of this completion, but we can eat only a crumb at a time. If we could discern the completeness of God's great realm in which we live and move and have our being, it would be so tremendous that we could not even live in a physical body. We would find that our consciousness would be so expansive that the body itself would just disappear. We would enter into that state of tremendous power where the cosmic ray that is identified with our own consciousness would become so active in our body that the very atoms themselves would become electronic. That is the secret of the disappearance of the Master's body, as well as that of Moses and Elijah. The consciousness becomes so expansive in its action that it raises the body with it a change of mind, a change of body through chemicalization. Through the cosmic ray the divine image is outpicturing itself, and in that ray is the tremendous power of consciousness. In that ray also is the divine expression from which the spiritual body is built. That spiritual body you have now, interpenetrating your physical body, awaiting your recognition and awareness of it. Know that you are the thinker. You think, and by your thought you create. Therefore let thought be as perfect as possible, so that it will manifest accordingly. Your own divine power is the light behind the picture and the mind, and the only power it has is the power you give it, for it is your own creation. Be ye perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. When we rest in the eternal, He shall reveal His glory in and through us. So the Creator is the thinker, the thought is the cause, and the form or manifestation is the effect. These three are one changing from cause to effect. Heaven means the higher spiritual state of man's consciousness. and earth means the lower state of the same consciousness. Jesus gave us the key to this when he said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you." In other words, heaven is the kingdom of the innermost or spiritual, and the earth must be the outer, the symbol of the outer or opposite, the material, eternally subsisting in the one, in perfect unity. Ancient symbolism shows that there is but one spirit. When the symbol is explained, it becomes clear and well understood. The circle means the infinite whole. When you draw a line across the circle, you separate it into two, but these two are not actually separate. One half becomes the active and the other the passive. Whatever is produced in the one is outpictured in the other. As it is above, so it will be below, as it is below, so shall it be above. There is no separation. Life alone lives, and the conception of ourselves being separate from divine life is the root of all our troubles. In the Master's course I explained the trinity of consciousness, intelligence, and substance. We must be careful not to make the mistake of thinking that this substance is the same as form. The form is in the substance and the substance is in the form, but the substance in itself is formless. Out of it all forms are made. These forms will dissolve away again, but the substance will still remain the same. We were told that the earth was void and without form, and out of the substance and in the substance it exists. This is the great truth in divine metaphysics that enables us to see the law clearly. We create, out of the substance, forms according to our own thought, and especially those thoughts that have feeling and power behind them. Fear is an emotion of great strength and produces the thought that is held within its orbit. In dealing with the nervous system, we see the interaction of this nervous system, which is none other than an outpicturing of the mind itself. It is a vehicle through which our thoughts can be expressed in the outer. There are thoughts in the mind that, when transferred through the nervous system, produce in our body the exact replica of the dominating thought which we hold. The nervous system is dual in nature. One system is known as the sympathetic nervous system and is the channel for all those activities that are not consciously directed by our volition or will. We will call this the involuntary process of the body, such as the digestive process, blood circulation, repair of the body, and the excretory system of the body through which we get rid of all waste matter. The cerebrospinal system is that system which is under the control of our volition. We receive impressions through our senses and exercise control over the movements of the body. This center is in the brain, and the sympathetic nervous system has its center in a ganglionic mass at the back of the stomach known as the solar plexus or abdominal brain. The cerebrospinal system is the organ of the conscious mind, and the sympathetic system is the organ of the subconscious mind. The brain center for the conscious mind is the cerebrum, and the brain center for the subconscious is the cerebellum. The bridge between the two is the corpus callosum that unites both of them and not only makes man a spiritual entity from a mental point of view, but also enables divine ideas to enter into the mind so that the conscious mind can lay hold of them, and by laying hold of them they are transformed into action upon the body through chemicalization. The conscious and subconscious require an interaction so that the orders are carried out. A corresponding system between the two nerve centers is necessary, and one of the most conspicuous connections by which this is provided is the vague nerve. The vague nerve comes straight from the brain, passes down each side of your neck, moves right down into the stomach and spreads all over the abdomen, and then it filters away into the subconscious, or what we call the involuntary nervous system, in the ganglionic mass uniting with the subconscious mind. So we find that the conscious ideas and the conscious mind pass into the organism, control the functions, and then disappear into the sympathetic nervous system, as they become one. Here we see the manner in which our thoughts can consciously be carried out in the subjective mind through the nervous system. As we have the conscious mind, so we have the subjective mind, and as we have the cerebral nervous system, so we have the sympathetic nervous system, all in complete harmony. As we have the active principle of the universe, so we have the passive, what the one decrees appears in the other. The vague nerve passes out of the cerebral region as a part of the voluntary system, and through it we control the vocal organs. Then it passes onward to the thorax, sending out branches to the heart and lungs, and finally passing through the diaphragm. It loses the outer coating that distinguishes the nerves of the voluntary system and becomes identified with those of the sympathetic system, so forming a link between the two, making man a physically single entity. The frontal portion of the brain controls the voluntary action, and the portion of the brain at the back of the head controls the involuntary. The intuitional faculty has its correspondence in an area between the two, and it is here that intuitive ideas find entrance. Man is then conscious as he acts through his cerebrospinal nervous system. He is reacting to a world of effects through his cerebrospinal nervous system or consciousness. Through the brain, man reacts to his senses, and his body responds through the nervous system. What he fears comes upon him as he believes, so is it unto him. The intuitive ideas are first more or less unformed and generalized in character as perceived by the conscious mind. The effect of nature is to bring these ideas into a more definite or usable shape. So the conscious mind lays hold of them and induces a corresponding vibratory current in the voluntary nervous system. This in turn induces a similar current in the involuntary nervous system, thus handing the idea over to the subjective mind. Therefore every mental action implies a molecular action on the brain and in the twofold nervous system which controls every cell in the body. Thus we see cause and effect in operation, and what you then think is outpictured upon the body. Now that we are convinced we can reach the subjective mind, we must tell it the truth that there is only one living being in existence. That being is God, divine life. This divine life fills me. The fact that we are alive is proof of the divine life filling us. We must show the subjective mind that the divine life builds the body for its own self-expression, because the body does not exist by itself, and the complicated operation is the work of the divine intelligence, so that it can fulfill its mission, which is complete expression on earth. The only interference with this complete expression comes from the individual who is either ignorant of the law or disobedient, through lack of understanding. But when we understand that we are the individualization of the divine life, we do cooperate and results are obtainable. The divine design is always within and is outpictured through the subjective mind. All tension must be taken off the mind and body so that harmony can prevail. Life organizes our tissue structure from the elements around us, from the substance of mind in which we live and move and have our being. Life within created the body for its own self-expression, and when we know this we acquire the faith that moves mountains. The same creative power in God is expressed in man, the only difference being in degree. When we see ourselves separate, we pray to a particular God outside ourselves, and we receive not because we ask amiss, for Jesus says God is spirit, worship him in spirit and reality. Again he says, I and the Father are one, he who has seen me has seen the Father. It is the Spirit within that doeth the work. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Life alone lives, thus our living proves our oneness with God. Before the world was created it was void and without form, cause operated before it became effect. So it is in everything pertaining to man's mind and body. Every cause exists first, and every effect is the result of cause. The mind of God is perfect substance, in it is life, consciousness and intelligence, out of which all things must be created. Therefore we are not separate from him, and when this great truth enters our minds we are free. To get the best results in health we must take all tension off the mind and body by means of mental and physical relaxation. When this is done, all strain is taken off the vital centers and nature begins to work harmoniously. Remember, the imagination is the subjective will, and this is brought into operation through ideas that dominate the mind. It is the deepest thought that counts. Do not become anxious about your condition nor try too hard to get well. Remember, as a man thinketh so is he. It is not just what you want that you get, but what you think deeply. Get your imagination filled with the idea that divine life fills you, and it will fill you. This is the way to apply the healing power most effectively. The soul is the ethereal vehicle of the deathless, immortal, productive spirit. Spirit is the immortal part of the human constitution. It never knows death or sickness. It holds the only consciousness you can ever have and goes from glory to glory in an eternal progression until it reaches home. From perfection I have come, to perfection I shall return. Now it is necessary for you to get control of your thinking. The exercise that is so essential for this week is similar to the last, with the exception that you will let your mind run out, any way it likes. Whatever thought comes into your mind, let it move out. It is not a matter of thinking about your thoughts, it is allowing your mind to flow outwardly, and you will see the benefit of this exercise every time you do it. You must do the previous exercises, as they enable you to perform accurately the exercises that follow. I cannot do these exercises for you. My place is to show you the way, and your place is to put it into practice. Allow any thoughts to come into the mind, but watch carefully what they are. Do not disturb them, just watch them carefully. Do this for 15 minutes daily all next week. By this exercise of outcropping the mind, thought control comes easier. One thing is sure, you will know what you are thinking and where your thoughts are moving. Carry out my commands and leave the result to me. Do this obediently and faithfully as you would expect a child to follow without question a given rule and the working of a sum. If this is done according to the command, the result will be right. God is the head of the universe. He is right here to stay. In fact, he always has been. He has never been away. It was in man's own mind where separation began. The Father and I are one has always been the plan. In unity there is strength. Separation is like a broken reed. Man alone is a failure. But with God he will succeed. Meditation. This state of meditation is not a dream state but a state where there is an I am consciousness, concentrative, meditative awareness. Benediction. Great and mighty eternal Spirit, we speak to thee within ourselves, thou indwelling Spirit of love, wisdom, and power. It is our recognition of thee that makes everything worthwhile. We do recognize thee in everything, no matter how large or how small. Give us that guidance and wisdom and that love to enable us to become like unto thee, as thou hast already decreed we should be. So mote it be.